this week's games. We'll take a look at the Eagles and Cowboys a little deeper and all of the Week 14 action. ESPN.com senior NFL Insider KC Joyner at KC Joyner TFS on Twitter joins us now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Time to play the game. KC, for all intents and purposes, an elimination game for the Eagles. They win, they stay irrelevant. If they lose, their season's pretty much done, right?
Yeah, and it should be, but given the way that the season's gone this year, I mean, if you can't win this game, that your season's over, well, you know, you are what your record says you are, as Bill Parcells says. But the Eagles, did even have a chance at this point? It shows some moxie on their part, because a couple 3 weeks ago, we probably thought they were done anyway.
Yeah, they won 2 in a row. What have they done well the last 2 weeks that they weren't doing well? You know, they finally won back-to-back games, not against good teams, but what have they started to do maybe to turn a corner and maybe get themselves a road win like this against Dallas?
I've had great things usually on a 4 to 5 week scale. In the past 5 weeks, so the Eagles have been pass blocking much better than they were earlier this year. They ranked 10th in the league in pass pressure rate allowed. They are allowing pass pressure on 26.3% of dropbacks. It's really good. And they're allowing a 9% rate of quarterback contact rate. How often the quarterback is getting hit. Not only, you know, they're allowing a low percentage there as well. So within your top 10 rankings of both of those, number 12 in sack rate, I think they're just giving they're giving their quarterback more time to pass, and it's allowing their passing game to develop in a way that earlier this year just couldn't get anything done. So I think it's a big plus.
All right, let's take a look at this game, kind of get our hands dirty on it. Let's start with the Eagle offense. They're starting to run the ball. Josh Adams. How about this Eagle offensive line? Can they open some holes against this Dallas defense?
I think they can, more than people maybe think they can. Philadelphia in overall blocking for this matchup, they've got the 14th most favorable blocking matchup, according to an article I do for ESPN's fantasy section, grading blocking matchups in the upcoming week. Philadelphia, the past 5 weeks, their overall blocking grade is 4th in the league. That's really good. And Dallas's front 7, as far as how they're doing in pass rush and rush defense, they're ranked 10th. So I think Philadelphia's got a much more favorable advantage there than we generally thought.
Let's look at the passing game. Carson Wentz, he's got Tate. You know, we got him a little bit more involved last week. We always talk about Ertz. Alshon Jeffrey, you know, we looked at this earlier. Over the first 4 games of the year, he had 39 targets. The last 5 games, he's down to 26. It seems like Jeffrey has kind of vanished here. How does the Eagle passing game match up with the Dallas secondary?
It's going to be a difficult task for them because the Cowboys just have some really good cornerbacks. I've got, you know, the grade rankings for cornerbacks where red is a tough matchup, yellow is an okay matchup, and green is a favorable matchup. Dallas doesn't have anybody green in their secondary. It's Byron Jones with a red-rated matchup. He would probably be slated to go up against Jeffrey. That can always change if we move receivers around, but that's who you'd think he'd go up against. Got Aguilar versus Chidobe Awuzie. That would be a red-rated matchup, so that's not good. Tate versus Anthony Brown looks like the most favorable matchup if that's the way it goes, and Brown is a yellow-rated cornerback, and I think that Tate's going to be somebody they're going to have to funnel a lot of targets to because the other two, you just don't want to throw up red-rated cornerbacks any more than you have to.
You look at the Eagles' offensive line. You talked about them in the run game. What about pass blocking for Carson Wentz? Because Wentz, you know, he's been a guy that he's at his best sometimes when he's improvising. Is this a game where there's a good pass rush opportunity from Dallas?
I'm wondering for the Eagles, the thing that concerns me about those pass blocking rates you mentioned before is that over the past 5 weeks, they're only giving a quarterback 2.15 seconds in the pocket on average. That's ranked 23rd out of the 32 teams of the past 5 weeks. Now, that doesn't necessarily say you're getting bad pass blocking, because again, they rank 10th in pass pressure rate allowed, but that means you're throwing a lot of quick passes. But that may be what you want to do against Dallas, although mentioning vertical passing, if you're talking about trying to go deep, you mentioned Ertz. Jeff Heath does not rate well in the coverage rankings. He's a green-rated coverage player, and you don't want to throw deep because Xavier Woods, their free safety, is a red-rated free safety, so you don't want to throw at him. But Jeff Heath being a green-rated target, I think that Ertz, if they don't throw 10 to 15 passes his way, that the only reason they shouldn't do this is if Dallas says we're going to double him, but if they double him, then they'll leave everybody else in single coverage, and that's a plus.
All right, let's look at the Eagle defense up against this Cowboy offense, which doesn't score a whole heck of a lot, but they have gotten better. Let's start with Elliott. He had 150 yards the first time they played against each other. The Eagles, typically a pretty good run-stuffing defense, so why the 151 last time, and should they be able to cut that down this time?
We've talked about this over the years, the last couple of years, that Philadelphia's biggest problem is when you get good blocking against them, you break off a lot of big gains. Philadelphia, over the past 5 weeks, They're ranked 11th in good blocking rate allowed. That's how often the offense is giving its ball carriers quality run blocking. It's only happening 42.9% of the time against the Eagles, so it's a pretty solid number. But when they do give up good run blocking, they're allowing 11.1 yards per carry. You cannot allow that against any running back, and against Elliott especially. So the Eagles, I think, in this contest need to say, we need to get up there. We need to shut our blocks. If they do block us, we need to bring a safety up. We need to do whatever we have to do that when Elliott gets good blocking, we're not giving him 11 yards a clip, because if they give him 11 yards per clip and they get good blocking, they will lose the game.
Yeah, and we saw that last time. He had a field day against this Eagle offense. Last time they played, the Eagles were ravaging the secondary with a lot of injuries here, but they're getting a little healthier, and some of the guys who didn't have a lot of experience now have a couple of games underneath their belt here. So what about the matchup, with the receivers? Cooper has added to them. It looks like you're going to get Beasley back in this game. So how does the Eagles secondary match up here?
I'm really worried about them because it could be Cooper versus Mills. I've got Mills and Douglas and most of the players outside of Sidney Jones. Most of the people in the Eagle secondary rated as green-rated players. So I think that Cooper's going to have a favorable matchup. I'm worried a bit about Gallup being able to go vertical because he is a good vertical threat. Not too worried about their tight ends, obviously, because even if Swain might start for them, and if not, it's going to be Jarwin or whoever they end up rotating in there. Schultz and they've got a bunch of no-names at tight end. So Jenkins, even though he's a dominant guy in coverage, he shouldn't have to worry about that. In fact, I might even think about trying to use rotate Jenkins up to either put him in the box to try to stop the run or try and get him to cover some of these people, because I trust him more in coverage, Frank, than I do some of these backup cornerbacks.
Pass rush, the offensive line here, we know they run block pretty well, but how do they protect if you're trying to get to Dak? Because Dak will move around, so he improvises a lot.
He does. Dallas's pass blocking over the past 5 weeks, if the Eagles have one place where they would hope they could get a big win, it'd be this, because Dallas's pass blocking is 28th over the past 5 weeks in my pass blocking grades. They're doing very badly in a number of metrics. They're not doing well in pass pressure rate allowed, not doing well in fact, they're 19th in pass pressure rate. They're 27th in quarterback contact rate. They're just allowing a lot of contact on the quarterback. They're 31st in sack rate. So this should be a matchup where the Eagles would be able to do well there. The problem for the Eagles is they're not rushing a passer very well of late. They rank 25th in pass pressure rate and 26th in quarterback contact rate. So it's a weak pass rush versus weak pass blocking, but I think the Eagles' pass rush is stronger than what their metrics are. And I think the Cowboys' pass blocking is actually, that's what they are. So if I'm the Eagles, I want to see them throw the ball because I think I can get after Prescott.
Okay. I was asked earlier in the week from a Dallas station about what I thought the area the Eagles can, where's the weakness that I think the Eagles could go after. And I don't know that the Eagles have a clear advantage in this game. Where do you see the clear advantage that Philly can exploit?
If I had a clear advantage, that is a really tough call because, again, I don't think they have necessarily a clear advantage anywhere. I would think that if the pass rush can step up, because the past 5 weeks, the one area on defense that they really stand out is time in pocket. The Eagles are only allowing 2.09 seconds time in pocket over the past 5 weeks. That ranks fourth best, and they're only 2.63 seconds before the average pass. Even if you get outside of the pocket and you're throwing, that's a low number. It's fifth lowest in the league. So I think they can rush the passing game and they can make Dallas throw the ball more they want to, but you got to get into the point where you can use that pass rush, and I'm not sure the Eagles can do that.
All right. The big matchup in this game, we know the Eagles got to stop Zeke Elliott. I think the Eagles, we had Danny White on right before you, Casey, and he said he thought if the Eagles hand the ball off 25 times to Adams that they could and would win the game. So to me, I think that's an interesting recipe for Philly. Can they get the run game? But what we saw last week from them, a lot more screen game with Corey Clement.
I would like to see them use a lot more. Use your passing game as the running. You've got the players to do it. Tate's a great player to throw screen passes to. You've got Clement. You can do that with him. And Adams, he's got 42 carries over the past 2 weeks. He's he's been on the injury report this week. And if I'm Philadelphia, I don't know that I want to give him 20 carries. I want to get my running backs the ball 25 times, but I don't know that I want to give him that many carries because I might be wearing them out.
All right, KC Joyner, let's look at the Week 14 matchups here. Let's start with what we saw last night. Titans are still in this thing. They beat the Jags. Jags look like they were ready to visit London.
Yeah, they look like they wanted to say. Somebody made a joke on Twitter that the Derrick Henry, he's doing great for fantasy teams, and I said, well, I think maybe the Jaguars players had him on their team the way they were trying not to tackle him.
I saw the guy in our league had him sitting on our bench. He scored like 70 points.
He did. Every league I'm in, he was on the bench, and it's terrible for people because you have him, and you put in most leagues it's 47.8 points. But it says something for the Jaguars' defense through there, and the Titans' run blocking is getting a lot better of late for their team that might be getting hot down the stretch.
So that team, they beat New England one week, they lose the next week. I mean, they are just very difficult to figure out. That's why they're 7-6. All right, let's look at Week 14. Let's go to Buffalo. This is a team that fights hard. They're 4-8, but they do fight hard. They've won a couple of games that nobody thought that they would win this year, most notably at Minnesota. So, can they beat the Jets at home? That would get them to 5-8, amazingly.
I would think they can, because the Jets have a lot of problems, especially in the secondary. They're banged up in their secondary, and they're not playing well at all. And Buffalo, I know that hey, look at Allen, their quarterback. He's been, you're talking fantasy. He's putting 26 points up per game over the past couple weeks. He could rush for 100 yards in this game alone. And given that with everything else Buffalo's doing on the ground and such, I think they're just going to be able to control the game the way the Jets can.
Carolina, big game for them. They got to go to Cleveland. Eagle fans are rooting for the Browns. You got a good feeling for Cleveland?
I do have a good feeling for Cleveland. I picked them to win the game. The problem for Carolina is their offensive lines are blocking great. Their front seven's been playing great, but their secondary is so bad it's offsetting those issues, and that's not a place to be against Mayfield the way he's playing right now.
Atlanta at Green Bay, two really good quarterbacks, two really mediocre to bad teams.
They are. And Atlanta, though, their offense has been playing a lot better. Green Bay, the way you look at their metrics, they're the #1 run-blocking team of the past few weeks, but they don't want to commit to the run. They want to make this a pass-first team, which I think is something that probably Aaron Rodgers wants them to be, and they need to be something else. So Atlanta knows what it wants to be, and it'll play the game plan it should play. Green Bay won't play the game plan it should play, so I think Atlanta wins.
Baltimore, and that's a road game, by the way, for Atlanta, too. That's a road win for them. Baltimore at Kansas City. This one's interesting in the AFC. Kansas City still needs it. They got the Chargers nipping at their heels. They play next Thursday night. Baltimore is the 6th seed right now. They need this. They got like 4 teams hanging around right behind them here. Lamar Jackson gets the nod again.
Lamar Jackson's doing well. Gus Edwards is playing. He's their backup running back. Has been getting 18 to 20 carries a game for the past 3 games. He's doing very well. Kansas City, though, their defense is starting to get a lot more dynamic, which is scary for the league because Kansas City's now starting to get interceptions and pass rush, and they might even be getting their starting strong safety back has been out for a while. So I think Kansas City's just got much more dynamic ways to win that game than Baltimore does.
All right, New England's at Miami. Miami's one of those teams hanging around, right? They're hanging around that wild card. New England, they know they have the division here. This game in Miami, I feel like the Dolphins have pulled off a random win of the Patriots, the last couple of years. This would be a big-time week for them to get them to 7-6.
The Patriots hate playing in Miami. It never goes well for them. It's something about being in nice weather this time of year just does not fit well for them, or something in the water or something. But the problem for Miami is Gase should be a Coach of the Year candidate, because when you look at the talent on that team, there's no way they should be playing as well as they are. That should be a 3 or maybe 4-win team. That he's got them where they are is a big plus. But New England, they don't lose December games. They play to their talent level, and I think Miami, if New England plays to its talent level, they easily win that game.
All right, New Orleans at Tampa. I'm afraid for Tampa here. They lost. New Orleans lost last week. They've had 10 days to get ready for this game, and Tampa beat them in their building earlier. This sounds like major revenge game in Blowout City.
It does, and Tampa's got. They've got guys Carlton Davis, M.J. Stewart. They've got some terrible people in the secondary. I don't think they're going to get Chris Conte back this week, so they're going to have problems. They've got Green Bay players almost across their secondary. Their run defense is terrible. They've got terrible run blocking, and the Saints defense is playing lights out right now. They are playing fantastic. So I think I agree with you. If it's not a 2-touchdown or more blowout, I'd be surprised.
I feel like I need Summerall and Madden for this Giants and Redskins game to make it interesting, because these two teams, especially Washington, really bad right now.
They are. Washington's going to have the third-string quarterback, and they've got a lot of their own issues. They've got injuries at the receiving core. They've injuries all over the place. They were healthy earlier this year. Last year, they had all the injury problems, and it didn't seem to crop up this year. At Washington, or the Giants they're playing better. Their offensive line is actually a top 15 group over the past 5 weeks, and I think they have more in the passing game, and they can go after some of the weaknesses in Washington. So I just think it was Bengals, Washington, and the Giants win that.
All right, let's go to Houston. Interesting one here. Indianapolis needs it. Houston, they've won 9 in a row here. Colts are still in that wild card mix, but they got to travel on the road. Can they snap the 9-game streak?
It's going to be a big issue for Houston because Indianapolis over the past 5 weeks, their defensive front seven's playing fantastic. In fact, I grade those matchups for that ESPN article I was mentioning. Houston has the least favorable blocking matchup of the week, so I think Indianapolis can pull off the upset. It's going to be tough, but I think they've got more than enough on offense and on defense, so they've got a bigger advantage than people think. So I like Colts.
Cincinnati's been awful. Chargers are rolling. They had that big comeback last week. Chargers, they have a shot to win that division, but they can't get knocked up at home in this one.
They can't. Yeah, we kind of expect they might. They Tomlin at times. They play down to their competition level, but they're playing very well on defense. Having Bosa back has been a big plus for them. And they've got Justin Jackson as a running back who they've got filling in. Everybody talks about Eckler and things. We've been watching Jackson on tape. He's just fantastic. And then they could actually, when Gordon comes back, they could have a three-headed group of running backs who can be impact players. So I think when you get that much talent, Chargers should win.
Denver, all of a sudden, they're in the playoff mix, and their schedule's pretty favorable, including this one at San Francisco. They've had all sorts of issues, have the 49ers. Denver's been playing well. They got a couple of nice wins back-to-back. Can they get 3 in a row?
This is the biggest shock of the week. Maybe I'll lose my nerve if the game comes up, but right now I'm picking San Francisco to win because I'm looking at Denver's receiving core. They just lost Emmanuel Sanders for the season. They're going to have a guy named Deshaun Hamilton at flanker. They're going to have Cortland Sutton at split end. They're going to have maybe Andre Holmes or Tim Patrick at number 3 receiver. They've got a third-string tight end playing. I mean, this is a passing game that is absolutely just destroyed, and San Francisco can get a lot of offense going. So I'm picking the 49ers in upset.
All right, KC Joyner here on the Sports Bash Boardwalk on the hotline. We've got Pittsburgh and Oakland. Oakland fought hard last week. Pittsburgh, first time I heard this on the broadcast. First time they're up 14 at home and lost a game ever.
It's ridiculous. And I mean, my son and I are big Steelers fans actually. And when the Steelers got the lead last week, we both looked at each other like, this game we could easily lose this. It's not a surprise the season today. They could Tomlin in this game, but when they just got through Tomlining, they probably don't do that this week. So I think they win, but I would not be shocked to see them Tomlin, especially with Connor out. I mean, they're going to have Ridley and Samuels as the running backs, and that's an untested core.
Oakland is at home in that game. Detroit at Arizona, both teams playing out the string. Arizona with a big upset win last week, and they make it 2 in a row.
I think they can. The Lions going across the country is not a good thing for them. Their running game has not been playing very well at all. Kerryon Johnson is out. Blunt is just a plotter. He's not that good. And their passing game, since they let Tate go, maybe Marvin Jones on IR, their passing game is just kind of falling apart. So I'd like Arizona actually to pull the upset on that one because they're playing a lot better than their record would suggest.
Sunday night, we have it for you here, 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins after the Eagles and Cowboys. It's Rams and Bears. Bears defense, Rams offense. Who wins out?
I think the Rams offense will end up winning out. The Bears are going to need to run the ball a lot because the Rams secondary is playing a whole lot better since they got Talib back. Everybody thinks about that Kansas City game and thinks their secondary is terrible. They are a very talented secondary. Their pass rush is getting to go well, so Chicago's going to need to run the ball. But if they do run the ball, their running game is not dynamic enough to offset the Rams' passing game. So I think the Rams are going to be able to win that. I'll say handily, but if they don't win by 7, I'd be surprised.
All right, Minnesota, Seattle. Eagle fans are probably rooting for Seattle in that game. Let them kind of take the number 1 seed and open up that second wild card, put it in play. That would keep Minnesota at 6. I think Minnesota on the road is going to have their hands full here. Seattle seemingly has been playing really good football since about the 4th week of the year.
Their offense is playing a lot better. Their running game was one of the problem for them is that their run blocking was fantastic or terrible earlier this year. It was just abysmal. Now their run blocking is great, but their defense. So the past 4 weeks, they have the lowest rated defensive front 7 in the league according to my metrics. They are just doing terrible in pass rushing and run defense. I think Minnesota is going to be able to get a lot of things done on offense, and they've got a good enough defense to where I think that they can go toe to toe if the thing turns into a shootout. So I'm picking Minnesota in the upset.
All right, and then of course locally we got the Eagles and Cowboys. You can hear that game. Countdown to kickoff coverage starts at 1 p.m. Merrill and Mike have the call at 4:25. We broke it down for you earlier, but in the end, can Philly go to Dallas and keep their season alive?
I won't be shocked if they do, but when I'm picking games, I do pick the percentages, and Dallas is at home, and Philadelphia, we talked earlier, it's hard to find an area where they have a dominant edge, and Dallas has a couple of areas where they could have a dominant edge. So I got to pick Dallas. If they play the game 10 times, I think Dallas wins 6.
All right. Looks like a Dallas win. Eagles season. Get the golf sticks ready to go. All right. We'll certainly Take a look back at all these games on Monday's show. KC Joyner, enjoy the football.
Appreciate it, man.